Question number 2, October 22, paper 42, object-oriented question. So let's start it directly. It's a very simple one. So they're saying there is a computer game that is being developed. The game has 10 different characters. Okay, so let's add this as a comment. 10 different characters. Then they're saying they're all active in the game. Part of the game is written using object-oriented. The class character stores the data about characters. Okay, so let's write class of character. Okay, each character has a name and X and Y coordinate of their position. So we'll just skip all of this, and they're saying declare the class character and the constructor. Do not write code for the methods. You must use attribute declaration if you're using Python. Okay, and we have the getter methods as well. So first of all, we have the attributes. So we can create the constructor init dash dash self. Okay, so first of all, we have the name, or we can just call it nm, and then we have x coordinate and then y coordinate. You can name these anything you want. So we'll have self dot dash dash name is equal to nm, then self dot dash dash x coordinate is equal to xc, and y coordinate is equal to yc. And then they've said that it must be so like this, the declaration is done. Then they're saying we have tried the constructor only at this point. Okay, so we are not supposed to write anything else. So we move on to the next part now. All attributes have been set to private. Okay, now we have to write 3 getter methods. So very simple, define get name, self.name, x coordinate, and then we have the define get y coordinate, and we just return the values one by one, and we add one line space in between for better readability. Okay, then they're saying write the code for the method change position. Okay, what will change position do? So change position will take x change as an integer and adds it to the x coordinate, and takes the y change as a parameter and then updates it. Okay, so we are just going to update the x and y values. So define change position. It will take 2 parameters, self, and then we have x. Let's just call it, okay, x change is fine, and then y change, and then we do self dot dash dash x coordinate is equal to, okay, so we are going to just simply add this value. So let's say the user is at position number 3 right now, and the exchange is maybe +1, so the new position of x becomes 4. This is what we're going to do. Then we do the same thing for the y coordinate, so y coordinate plus equal to y change. Simple enough. All right, then they're saying write the code for the change position, so we've done that. Okay, then in the next part they're saying the main program has 1D array of characters. Okay, so we can hide this and we'll just create our main function. So main, and then they're saying 1D array of characters. Each character is stored as an object of type character. Okay, so character is a class, so we'll be storing an array of objects. The game has maximum 10 characters. The names x and y are stored in the characters file. Okay, so this is the text file. So we have the name, then we have the x and y value. So I'll just add space here. You're not supposed to change the values without creating a backup first. Okay, so then we again have 3 sets of values, 3 values. So we can clearly see they are all in sets of 3. Now the question says that there are a total of 10 characters. So that makes it a total of 30 lines exactly. Okay. Amend the main program by writing the code to declare the array, read in all the 10 characters, and store each character as an object in the array. Now if we go back to our question, and if we look at this object, a constructor here, so we are supposed to pass in 3 values. That means when we're creating the character object, we have to pass in the name, like we have Amal in this case, and then it says 0 and 2. So this would exactly be one object. Now we just have to retrieve these values in such a way that we can pass them to the function and make it work properly. So let's go ahead and start our file handling part. So first of all, you have to open the file, close the file, and do exception handling. So the name of the array is called character. Okay, it's not character, it's the object of type character. Okay, they have not given us the array, so let's call it character list maybe, and this would be empty. And then we have the text file. So f is equal to open characters.txt, in read mode, or you can just skip R together. Altogether, it's there by default. Okay, then we're going to do exception handling. So in case there is an error, the program does not crash. Okay, except we'll print file processing error. Okay, so we open the file and we simply just go through all the lines for line in F, and let's just print each line for now and see if it is working or not. Yep, it prints all the lines, and since there are spaces in between, we need to get rid of the spaces by using the strip function, and it's working perfectly. Okay, now we have to get 3 values at a time. Now there are 2 ways of doing this. One method is using the readline method, where we'll loop for 10 times and we read line thrice. So we do read line, then we do read line again, and then we do read line again. So this will make sure that we're getting 3 values at a time, and it will automatically adjust our pointer after every call of read line. Or the other method is that we use the read function, which converts the whole thing, or read lines, which converts the whole thing into an array. So this whole file will be converted into a 1D array, and then we can just run a loop and we can pick indices 0, 1, and 2, and we do that, keep doing that over and over again. So it's totally up to you how we want to do it. So I'll just stick to the easier method here. Okay, so we are going to get the line here, and this would be our, let's call it the, maybe line is equal to line dot strip. So we remove the spaces. Okay, let's call it something else, maybe item. Okay, so we have the item here. Now we will get rid of this loop because we want to only run it 10 times, because we are going to run readline 3 times. So whenever we run the readline 3 times, it will automatically move the pointers like this: 1 to 3, then 1 to 3, then 1 to 3. So we don't have to move the pointer individually. So for I in range 10, because then they've told us there are 3 sets and then there are 100 values. Sorry, 3 values for 10 values, so total of 30. So item is equal to, or we can extract them directly. So first thing we'll get is the name. Let's get that name out. So we have name is equal to f dot readline, like this. And we also have to apply strip individually now, because we are reading line 1 by 1. Then we have the x coordinate, that is f dot readline dot strip, and then we have to do it again. So y coordinate, again you can use separate names, it's completely fine. It's just more coherent if you use the same names as the attributes. Okay, now you have to create the object and you have to add it into your character list. So we'll say character list dot append, and now we're going to create a character. Now what is the character? Character is the class, and to create the object we need these 3 values. We already have the 3 values. So we'll create the character object here and we'll pass in the name, the x coordinate, and the y coordinates like this. If this line causes any confusion, you can simply just move it above and you can just create an object in separate line, and then you can just pass the object here for better readability and ease. Then we close the file, and then that is pretty much the whole thing. So if we run it, okay, it doesn't print anything because we didn't print something. So maybe let's just print the character list. So we'll get some addresses here, but that would give us an idea. Okay, so we do get addresses. That means there have been values populated into our character list array, and that is good enough. Obviously, we cannot read the whole object at
Why
once.
does
We have
it
to.
not?
So if I run this again, the object contains 3 attributes, right? It contains name, x coordinate, and y coordinate. That is why it cannot print anything. It's just printing you the address instead. So if you ever want to print the object, you have to go through the object's attributes individually. That is why we have the getter methods, right? So we created 3 getter methods: name, x, and y. So we have to use them on these objects to get out the individual attributes. You cannot get them at once. You have to do it separately. Okay, then they're saying in the main program, you need to read in the character's name from the user, search for the character. Okay, there's one thing that you missed. X and Y coordinates are supposed to be integer, so I should be converting these to integer. Any value that is read from a file is always in text format, string format. So the user search for the character in the array and store the index of its position. It repeats until the user enters the name that exists in the array. Okay, so this is a very simple linear search question. We are going to take an input from the user and we are going to keep searching for it until we end up finding it in the array. So yeah. Now we have all these names basically, and we have all of them in the array as well. This is called the character list. So let's just first do this. In the main program, they're saying maybe if I just print the values for item in character list, and if I just print the items again, it will print the addresses. So instead of printing the whole item, I'll use the getter methods. Print get name, then item dot get x coordinate, and then print item dot get y coordinate. If I rerun this, here we go. It's now printing the values perfectly fine. So I'll get rid of this. Okay, now we are going to look for the name that the user has entered. And one thing to keep in mind is that values can easily be mistyped, especially in case of case sensitivity. So in Python, if you write Carl uppercase, so that, and if you write Carl lowercase, they wouldn't be the same. So this is not equal to uppercase Carl or all uppercase Carl. So we have to convert all of the values or both of the values in the same case sensitivity to make sure that they match. So that is what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to ask the user to input a value. So okay, or we can leave it here. So we're going to ask the user to input the target name. Target is equal to input, enter character name you want. And then we go through the array and we simply get the current name out. So I'll just get rid of this for now. So we get the current name is equal to item dot get name. In fact, let's just call it name. Don't need to use current. Okay, and then we check if the name that we have in the array is equal to the target value that we're looking for. If that is the case, then they're saying search for the character and store the index of its position. If that is the case, okay, so we need the index. So we need to change this for loop. So this should be for I in range length of character list like this. And let's get the current object out. So current object is equal to character list index I. Again, if we do index I, it is going to return us this whole object. From this whole object, we need to get the name out. So I need to get the name. So I'll say if current dot get name like this. So whatever the current object is, we need to get the name of it. If it is equal to the target value, then we're going to simply store the index of its position. So let's call it position maybe, and I'm going to store the value of I because I is the loop variable. This is going to store wherever the current value is stored. And how would the array look like? So it would have something like this. It would have some characters. Let's say character A, something and something. This would be an object. So I'm wrapping this in square round brackets like this. Then there would be another index, and then it will have values like this. So this is what we're iterating through. We're going through them one by one. Turn it back to the initial state. Okay, so we store the position, and then at the end we'll simply, and they're saying it repeats until the user enters a name that exists in the array. Okay, so in fact this should be a while loop. So let's quickly change this. I misread the question. Okay, so this is much better logic. So we are starting the loop and we're saying until we end up finding the value, we get the current value out, we get the name. If it matches the target value, we store its current index I, which is initially set to 0, and we set found to true, and we simply break the loop. Or we don't even really need to do this. So that's the idea. Or if you want to simplify it further, you can just have while true, which is basically an infinite loop. And while that is the case, it will keep on running the loop until you end up breaking the loop. So break means that you end the loop. And we every time we keep on going to the next index over and over again. Okay, now
Sir,
before
in the
okay, and then they okay, yes. So one thing that we missed was we have to convert them into the same case. So whatever the user's name is and whatever the target is, let's convert both of them to the same case, which could be the lowercase. So current dot lower like this. In fact, current dot okay, let's call it name is equal to current dot get name. In fact, let's just change this to name. We
and
don't need to.
also how
Okay, so yep, this would work, I hope. So we set the false to found to false initially, the loop runs, we input a target, and then we pick that target and we compare it against all the 10 values in the character list, and then every time we're getting the name, we're comparing it with the target name. If it is found, we store the position, we set the found to true, and then we break this loop. So the for loop breaks, and then outer loop is while loop. We check is while found is still equal to false, which would not be the case, so the while loop would break as well. Okay, so this is fine now. Then they're saying in part F, the user will enter a letter to identify the direction they want to move in. So we have to do that now. Okay, we also needed to convert these. So name dot lowercase and then target dot lowercase to make sure that there's no issues with the case sensitivity. Okay, so AWST, and then we have to amend the main program. So we go here and then we write. So in the main program, they're saying the user will identify the chosen character in part E that we should move. So this is in part E. Okay. So if the input is A, okay. So this has to be incorporated inside. So we redo the whole thing. So we have now valid and invalid. So we'll assume valid is equal to false, just like the same thing we did. And here we are moving the character. Okay, so valid is equal to false, and then we check while valid or while not valid. So as long as the move is not valid, we will keep on moving. Okay, and then they're saying with the move would be AWST. So input, enter A, W, S, or D for left, right, up, and down directions. Okay, so the user will input that, and then we have to check. So we have to again convert this move into a specific case. So move is equal to move dot lower. Let's convert it all to lowercase. So if the move is equal to A, there would be an easier way of checking this as well. We can create a valid moves array like this. We can say A, W, S, and D like this. And then we can first of all check that if the move is not in the valid moves, then we are going to produce an error. Otherwise, we will just run it normally. So up to you how you want to do it. I'll just keep it simple for now. So if the move is equal to A, then we are going to update the position. So they're saying if the character moves left, the coordinate is x minus 1. So we're going to go to the character list at the index pointed to by position. This is the player that we got, the character that we were looking for with the name. So we found the position in the index. And at this index, we are going to call the method, which would be change position on this specific object. And here we are going to, so if we go into the change position, what happens is we pass in the X and Y change. So X will be changed by -1 and Y would not change. So this would simply be -1 comma 0 like this. And this position is okay, it is not defined here, so I'll set it to 0 initially here. So eventually if none of this becomes true, it would still be 0, so it's defined now. All right, and then we do elif, and move is equal to, we have A and then we have W, and W here in the question means Y coordinate +1. So I'll just copy this and I'll paste it, and we have to do the same thing for the next two directions. So this is the complete set of conditions. And then Yeah, so we can, yes, we can change this as well. And we have to set the validity as well. So if this was the case, we have to set the value to true. Again, like I said, a better approach would be, so as long as the move is not valid, so while we'll ask the user to input the move. So let's keep it simple. So move while the move not in valid moves. Okay, so we'll keep on and we do this at the end. Okay, this is much better now instead of using the same boolean variable again and again. So we'll get rid of this. Okay, so we first of all check while the move that the user placed is not in valid moves, which is AWST. So we are going to then keep on running and we'll just keep on asking the user to re-input the values again and again. Let's bring it here as well, like this. And then we check if it is equal to AWSND, and then this keeps on happening until the move is actually valid. Okay, and in the next part, they're saying when a change to the character's position hasn't made, the program needs to output the character's name, the new X and Y, the format is this, and then the main program to perform these
I have a
tasks.
question.
So we only need to run it once, because once we have the valid move, we'll run it. Okay, yep, that's fine. I think it's again saying it's generic or not special. Okay, we can skip this. All right. So now we just have to print, and that is the last thing. So character has changed the coordinates to x is equal to this and y is equal to this. Okay. So print. We have the character name here. So let's get the values out. So name is equal to character list current position dot get name. So we get the name. Then they're saying get their x position and their y position. So let's get their x coordinate and their y coordinate. So this would be get x coord and get y coord. I believe I'm writing the correct spellings. Y coordinate and x coordinate. Okay, so it should be the complete name, coordinate, and get x coordinate. Okay. Then they're saying you have to print it in this way. So print will use the format string name has changed coordinates to x is equal to x and y is equal to y. And then you have to test by inputting the following 4 items in the order given. Okay, let's try. So this is our output for this program, Thomas, x and a. So x is equal to 83 and y is equal to 9. We can just verify this from the file as well. So the QUI query should be in the file somewhere. Let's quickly check. The QUI query. Okay, yes, we have a QE here. And then we first moved, we took a wrong direction and then we moved in direction A. A, I believe, was left by 1. So yes, from 84, it became 83 and Y remained 9 because we moved to the left. Okay, perfect. So question 2 is also completely running.